to 360 Strong Women. Today, it's not quite a workout. Today, we're going to work on mobility in the shoulders and in the hips. I hear these questions all the time. I've got a shoulder issue or I don't have range of motion. What do I do? My hips always hurt me. I don't quite have the mobility. What do I do? So we're going to go over some mobility exercises that you can do as part of your therapy or movement per se when you're having issues. I would say consider doing these all the time so that you don't get an issue with your shoulder or with your hips. Now, this is called motion is lotion. And what we know about movement is that we need to be moving. Our bodies were meant to move. And when we stop moving, we start to atrophy our muscles, we start to shorten our muscles, and we lose mobility. Another reason why we need to be moving every day, and we need to make it varied. If we overtrain, we're going to end up with a shoulder or a hip issue. Now, our shoulders and our hips are ball and socket joints. So here's my joint, my ball fits into it, and it moves this way so that I can, have range of motion in my shoulders and move it all the way around this way. And so I can move my hips around this way. And when they start to get calcified or shortened, or we overstretch or injure the ball and socket joint, we start to have issues. Now, there's a lot of ligaments and tendons that are connected to. We don't want to overstretch those either, because that can cause looseness in this ball and socket joint, and so they can be overextended, and we don't want that either. We want to have motion is lotion. Keep thinking about that and do these specific things to keep your joints working fluidly so that you avoid risk of injury, risk of overtraining, risk of overstretching tendons and ligaments, and then injuring the muscle joints as well. The first thing we're going to do is a IYTW, and I've done this in other videos, just super important for that shoulder mobility. And then I'm going to do another exercise with that, and then we'll get down to hips. Let's work shoulders first. I'm going to do this kneeling on the ground so that you can see me better, but you can do these standing or sitting in a chair. You don't have to be on the ground. The first thing I want to do is pull my abs tight to my spine. Keep my apple under my chin and keep my head over my shoulders so my head's not sitting out in this. So we're aligned properly. And then I'm going to roll my shoulders back and stack that scapulae and drive my arms up to the top eye. Now I want to, you notice how I retracted, right? I want to relax my shoulders. I don't want them coming up and sitting in my ears. So nice eye. Now I have wide shoulders, so my eye's not tight to my body. That hurts me. So I'm going to relax it. And then I'm going to push out into scapation, catty corner. Why? And see, I've got great range of motion here. My shoulders are comfortable in this position. Then I'm going to drop my palms down to my T, pinch my shoulder blades back together. Now you'll notice if you have a shoulder issue, one side would be leaning up or down. And you can check yourself in the mirror and see. Pin those shoulder blades back together, pull the pit of the belly in and up. That's your T. Then you're going to pull up, W. And again, shoulder issues usually are offset. We want them nice and even. And you can work your digits here too if they're getting tight. Then I'm going to lift my scapulae and bring it here. Like scarecrow, but I'm in my W. I'm just in a different plane of motion. Shoot my arms straight out in front of me. Now I'm in my I, Y, T, and I'm back to my W. So it's I, Y, T, W. Bring it down. I, Y, T, and W. Now you're back to the top. You can roll your shoulders. You can roll your arms back. I've got pretty good range of motion in my shoulders. I love this one. This is great. So keep moving those. But if you feel like it's tight, I can't get there, go to where you can go. Keep practicing. Even if you have to do one side at a time, but keep the shoulder not from lifting up. So I, Y, T, W, lift. I, Y, T, W, and then do the other side and practice trying to get them both together. You can also do this on a wall facing. I, Y, T, W. You can also do it that way. That's a great way to do it, pressing into your wall like that. You'll really feel that around the shoulder girdle. So you can do it that way as well. I like to look in a mirror and check my shoulders to make sure they're not dipping or dumping. That's how IYTW should be in your Motion is Lotion toolbox. You should be doing that one all the time. And if you hit our button like, subscribe, and share, there is a shoulder therapy workout for you. There's also a hip one, a back one, a knee one, an ankle one, and wrist flexors and extensors. So you can go back into our playlist and pull that up and use those. Now, I used bands, I think, for a lot of those. I'm not using anything but a block today for a shoulder stretch. IYTW, IYTW. Motion is Lotion. We want to do those all the time. Now, I'm going to do this particular one without a band, but you could use a therapy band with this one. So I'm going to take a nice lunge, and I'm using a wall in particular. I want it to be right up against my wall. So my leg, my hip, and my shoulder are touching my wall. And my hips and my shoulders are in alignment. I'm going to roll my shoulders back, pull the pit of the belly in and up. Then I'm going to put my arm right here, parallel. So shoulder, hands parallel right up against my wall. And then I'm going to put my other arm here. And then I'm going to open this arm up, bring it as far as I can, and then take it back. Open it up. Now you could use a band, right? Stretch open a therapy band, so you're holding onto your band, you're stretching it. But just to get you started with your range of motion, motion is lotion, we're doing it this way. So you can come back, tap back as far as you can. You may not be able to get all the way to your wall. You may not be here. That's okay. Go to where you can go and then start to work from there. If you feel like you've got severe pain when you are doing these exercises, please seek out an orthopedic or sports medicine person to help you with these, a physical therapist, so they can help you, give you the tools to give you protocols to do these. And then you'll go to the other side. So again, I'm going to use my wall. I'm in LL, so I'm in alignment. Pull the pit of the belly in and up. And my leg, my hip, and my shoulder are right up against my wall. And I'm going to put my arm right here so it's parallel. I'm going to put my other arm in. Now, you'll notice that right side, left side, biomechanically imbalanced. When I do it on the other side, my shoulders fit really nice together. When I do it on this side, my internal rotation here pinches a little bit because my shoulders used to just being wide. So I have to be cognizant and self-aware of that. And then I'm going to open it up and tap, and then bring it back. Open it up, exhale, breathe, inhale. We're not holding our breath when we're doing our therapies. Open it up, exhale, and then inhale. So you're going to do that. And I would suggest you do like 15 on one side, 15 on the other. If you feel like, Beth, that's really easy for me, then maybe add the therapy band with that. All right, we're going to do another one. This is a little bit more difficult and it looks a little weird, but this is the gist of it. Same movement with my hips and my legs. I'm in a lunge. My knees on the ground. Now, if your knee hurts you being on a hard surface like that, you can put it on a block, right? Or more cushion. Roll your mat and make it more cushiony. I'm going to take my thumbs to my temple and roll back and open up my shoulders this way. Now what I want to do is rotate. So I'm going to be here and I'm going to rotate. I'm going to rotate over and then rotate down and up and back and then rotate around and rotate back. So it's a rotation. It's like figure 8. Like that. So you're going to do that on both sides as well. So I'm going to rotate down and up and then down and back and down and up and down and back. You're not as close to the wall when you do that. Just stand up. So I don't know if you heard my hip crack. Wow. All right, so you're not as close to the wall when you're doing this one because you need room for your hip to move. You're going to have fluidity in the spine. Your spine's going to be rinsing out as well, but the shoulder movement, right? Shoulder movement up and back. So it's this way and then this way. So motion is lotion. All right, we're going to do a few more shoulder mobility stretches, and then we're going to get into our hips. I brought a couple of yoga blocks, and I'm going to stack them vertically here. And my shoulder stretch is, I'm on my knees here. I'm going to tuck my toes under. And then I'm going to put my forearms on top of my block and stretch the shoulders. Pin those shoulder blades back together. Drop your head almost all the way to your mat and feel that open up. Breathe in and out here. And then release. Now when I release, I'm going to extend my spine the other way. And then you can come back down and pin them back together. And then come up and put extension. Got a really nice opening there. So you're going to really feel that not just in your shoulder girdle, but in your spine, like lengthening out that spine. Really keep your abs tight here because your back is kind of sitting out there. So you want to support your lower back. All right, so I'm going to move my mat a little closer to you so that you can see this. I'm going to lay straight out. This is another shoulder opener. And then we're going to go into hips. I'm going to lay all the way down and put my arms out at a T. What I want to do is push my shoulder down. So you can see that, right? So it's pushing into my mat. And then I'm going to begin to roll it open, really nice and gentle, just like this. So what I want to do is my top leg that's on top, I want to bend it and put my foot close to my glute. And then I'm going to lift my other arm up. You can make a bind if you want to work that shoulder too at the same time. Now, what do I do with my neck? You could look up if you wanted to work your cervical spine. You could put your head on a block if you need support or look straight this way. Up to you. If your neck hurts here, I would suggest putting a block under it and supporting it, because you're really working that cervical spine as well. But this is the opener, right? Very gentle. And then gently come out of that. So you're working your shoulder system, that shoulder opener, but you're also working those rotator cuffs that connect. And we want to be really gentle with them. And then I'm going to do the other side. So I'm out at my T. I'm going to push my shoulder down. And then gently, 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 gently roll out. My top leg is going to come close to my glute. And then I'm going to lift up, look up, and then I'm going to take a bind and open my chicken wings. I'm going to press my shoulder blades back together. So I'm going to open this up really big and stretch it open. Very gently breathe here. And again, if you need support, you're going to put your head on a block. And then very, very, very gently, you're going to roll back. And bring my arms to my W and then press my body up. And your shoulders are nice and open. So this is the one that we want to really practice. IYTW, IYTW, and then against the wall, open it up, against the wall, open it up. Really work that range of motion. Now, if you've had any kind of physical therapy because you've had an injury before, the protocols that they've given you, you want to do forever and ever and ever. Don't stop because you're feeling better. Keep doing them. Motion is lotion. All right, so let's get into hips. The first thing I want to do, since we're down here, is work on our hip opener. And I'm going to sit on my hips, on my sits bone, right? I want to have my toes dorsiflex towards my knees. Now, when you sit down like this, I want to think about both hips landing on my mat at the same time. Sometimes this hurts around your knee joints, not fully closed, so you may need to open it up a little bit. Sometimes your hips are tight, so your legs may be up. You may not be laying down flat, and that's okay. You're going to breathe into this and let this just sit and open. And then I'm going to go to the other side and lay them down. And then consider, how are they laying down? Am I laying down evenly? Does one hip, so this hip wants to lift up today. So I want to lay down, so I'm kind of manipulating that. And you'll see this leg's not laying down flat. So right side, left side, biomechanically imbalanced, not the same. That's okay. We're not perfectly perfect. We're imperfectly perfect, and that's okay. So we want to breathe into that. My hip flexor's tight on this side. I can tell today just by what my body's doing. So you do this long enough, you're going to be able to say, okay, my hip flexor's tight. I'm going to have to stretch that out a little bit more. Something's going on. It's hurting. Start at your feet and work up. Above and below joints are going to give you an indicator of what's going on versus a symptom. This is tight. This is tight because why? My back's tight because why? My shoulder hurts because what else is going on? What have I been doing? There we go. And I'm going to come back to the other side. And you're just going to keep going back and forth here until they feel a little better. Now, that time, laid down, everything feels good. So I've been just opening them up. And I would consider after a leg day, after you've done your leg workout, do your hip openers. Go to the other side, see how that's feeling. Much better. So it just laid down a little bit better. So just keep going back and forth. I would do that 4 or 5 times to make sure that things are opening up. You're gentle with it. It's not forced. Beautiful. Now that because they've been in flexion, I want to put my legs in extension just to warm them up a little bit. Now, one of the things we want to do when we work hip mobility is, like, you can move these quicker, right? You can be more rhythmic with it if you wanted. I like to maneuver and think about where are my hips at, what's hurting, where am I feeling the sensations, where am I leaning into or lifting up from. I like to have indicators of what's going on in my body before I start rhythmic. But then once you figure it all out and things are starting to lay down and open up, then you can be very rhythmic with that. So you could do that. That's a great hip opener. The other thing I would suggest to practice with hips is getting up off the ground without your hands. So that's what we're going to work on next. So now we want to get up off the ground without using furniture, right? I don't want to pull furniture down and fall and hurt something. I want to be able to get up off the ground just like this. So I'm going to find that hip opening move that we just did. I've got my legs here and I'm seated and I'm ready to go. I've worked them open a few times and gotten the oxygen into my body and they're feeling pretty good. I'm going to pull the pit of the belly in and up and push up onto my knees. Then I'm going to take my back leg and push it to the front, tuck my toe under and lift. Now I'm standing. I'm up off the ground. I didn't even use my hands. To get back down, I'm going to kneel down, right? Lunge, step back, and sit down. Now I'm in a seated position again. So let me do that one more time on this side. You may be able to do it on one side and the other side is more difficult. That's okay. You can use your hands, just don't use furniture, right? But I like to be able to not use my hands, just to be able to use my core and my legs to stand up and get up off the floor. So I'm going to push, use my core, my low back, tucking it in tight, up onto my knees. Back leg comes forward. Tuck those toes and push. Now I'm standing. Bring it down, bring it around, and sit down. Now I'm sitting. Now if I were to do it on the other side, it will look the same way. Open those hips. Push. Back foot comes forward. Tuck that toe, lift it up, bring it down, bring it around, and sit down. Nice. Now I'm sitting back on my hips, up on my knees. Back foot comes forward. Tuck that toe, lift it up, bring it down, bring it around, and you're seated. It's that easy. And that really works hips. It helps get your hips nice and open. And then you can do all those hip openers as far as like our yoga poses, right? Hit our button, like, subscribe, and share, and you can get all of these, right? Our Anjaneyasana, hip flexor stretch, hamstring stretch, all the work that goes around your hips. I have one more standing exercise for your hips for mobility. Motion is lotion. And then I'm going to set you on your way. Okay, the last one is a standing position. And if you've ever had a hip issue, a knee issue, a mobility issue in your leg, even in your low back, and you've gone to therapy, you have probably done this already. So I'm going to ground down one foot, grow it down like roots. Remember, my foot is my stabilizer. My ankle is my mover. My knee is stable. My hips are my mover. My low back is stable. My thoracic is my mover, and my neck is always stable. I want to keep my apple under my chin and the crown of my head coming to the ceiling. All right. Then you can roll your shoulders back. You could open up your arms this way, external rotation, or you can leave your arms at your side. I'm going to stand in Shamastihiti, like easy standing pose like we do in yoga. And then I'm going to ground down on this side. Now I'm not throwing my hip out. I've got it in alignment. This hip is in a neutral position. This hip is in a neutral position. We're going to move this one around. So I'm going to bring my foot out and tap. Now I want you to think about you're standing in a circle, and there's a circle all the way around you. And you're going to map out range of motion, right? So I'm rolling those shoulders down, not lifting up, not working. Your shoulders want to do the work. You're going to want to tap around, 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 around. And then you're just going to notice how far you can get your foot around this circle without turning your hips. So I can get to about there before it's too much, and then you'll come back around, round, round, round. Tap, tap, tap. And test range of motion, right? And we want to test range of motion in our hips and in our shoulders. Shoulders and hips follow each other. So I'm not dumping my shoulders. I'm not using my shoulders to move around. I'm not moving my hip in another direction. I'm keeping it facing you. And as I do this more and more and more, I can get a little bit more range of motion. So you want to be able to get it all the way around, almost like a curtsy, right? Skater, without turning my hips that way. And then other side. And then again, be self-aware of right side, left side. Doesn't have to be balanced. You just have to be self-aware of what's going on in your body. And then the same thing. I'm going to ground down at my foot. My foot is my stabilizer. My ankle is my mover. My knee is stable but soft. My hip is my mover, right? Ball and socket. My shoulders are movers. My neck is stable. My head is not out here. And then I'm going to do the same thing. You can tap or just float your leg around. And if you have like tight low back, tight glutes, that's as far as I go right now, then that can, right, mess up your motion, your range of motion, your motion as lotion is going to get creaky. So we want to keep stretching our body. That's why flexibility, stretching, being flexible is part of the fitness delta all the way around. Now, the more I do this, the easier it gets. And I work that. So you want to work range of motion. You want to have range of motion in our shoulders and in our hips. Motion is lotion. So I hope that you will take these little exercises, these little therapies, and add them to your movement. So after you move, if you've ever had a shoulder or a hip issue, or you don't want a shoulder or a hip issue, then you're going to add this motion is lotion. Your I, your Y, your T, your W. Work out your range of motion. Stretch your shoulders, right? Stretch them out, and then stretch out your hips. Work that mobility circle around. It's also good for balance. And work those hip openers and practice standing up without using your hands or furniture. It's really good for you. Have a great day. Don't forget, even though we were really doing a more of a therapeutic movement today, you're going to need water. So hydrate your body, and we will see you for the next video. Bye.